in this video I'm going to talk about making your own little tile sets. So I'm just going to make a new document here. Right, so if I make something that's like power 2, 512, 512, and when you're making up tile sheets for something like Gamemaker, you need to consider that the top left tile is going to be unused. So I'm just going to change the grid here to like 32. Okay, so these are going to be your individual tiles for making up backdrops, and I'm just going to give you a brief rundown of how I think about this. Right, there's a bit of a lag of response with the screen record. Right, so normally you've got your background color, right? But you're going to have tiles on top of this, so imagine that's your background, and do like something over and above it, and you're going to have these kind of corner pieces and straight pieces and so on, right? So imagine that's the inside bit there. Now, if you're not too sure if that's dead center, you can go to your grid. A bit of a delay with using screen record. I don't know if it's the tablet, but anyway, so I'm going to switch that to 2. You can see that I've gone 2 pixels too far here. So I'm just going to pull that in to the edge, and same with this one. Let's get rid of these. Now you want to make sure you're on the pencil tool and that your eraser is also in pencil mode. That way you've got the ability to edit individual pixels. In brush mode you'll get this kind of thing happening, and even if you have a hard round brush like this at the smallest size, you're still going to get this, and then even if you switch these off, you're still getting this anti-aliased edge, which is nice if you're doing some line work or sketching, but with pixel art you need this pencil. Okay, so using up this block, I've used this corner. I'll get it straight here, and for quickness I'm just going to copy this part and rotate it. Now I've made a shortcut key for rotate, but it's basically in your edit, transform, and then rotate. So you see I've changed it to Control Y, but I don't think there's a natural shortcut key for it. So this is your base, right? You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tiles used, and this tile in the middle is spare, so you can basically, make this like just a flat color tile, right? This background is confusing now, so I'm just going to get rid of that. And what you really want to do is fill in this with the color. So imagine this is some sort of pavement. Right, so you got your pavement corners and edges, and then you got your actual pavement tile. And then what you can do then is have either variations of each, or you can create some little breakup effect. Like in this tile I could put some sort of cracks like this. And feel free to use opacity here to get a little bit of anti-aliasing, I guess. Unless you're using some kind of limited palette, that's okay. So if I take this now and I'm just going to cut it to the layer above, you can see, I could put this over this tile or wherever, if it's not locked into the grid, then I can place it in different places, because to place it there wouldn't make sense. It'd be better to place it like that, or here, even there. You see I can make up loads of these little decal type images. Let's get rid of that for now. So now what if you wanted to make this into an isometric game? I'm going to take this, and the first thing you want to do is rotate it 45 degrees, like this, and then you're going to want to pull it up like halfway, but I'm just going to set that there. Now when I rotate it, I want to make sure that I don't have a bilinear one. I want nearest neighbor, so I get those crispy edges, right? And then I'm going to use shift and drag this up. Like I want it to be 50% the height, so you can see I can actually do that here. If I unlock this and do 50%, I've already got the start of an isometric tile, and I'm going to make it match some kind of system here. So it's a different system completely. I'll have to drag this up so it meets the edges, and maybe I want to go as far as bringing this up to here, that to that point. That way I've got this 2:1 ratio, but let's see, maybe it's more like this, so that this tile could be reused again and again. Okay, so let's just do that correctly now that I've got the idea behind it. I'm just going to take this dark tone and go from, yeah, so I've got this halfway point. And you see I've got all these pixels going like 2:1, so that gives me that 2:1 ratio. Okay, so it's going to be the same here. So it's going to be more like this. So you see the tiles are different. It's not exactly the same, so don't do what I did at first, do what I did here, because it's easy to assume that it will just work, but you need to make sure it also snaps with the tiles. So if I fill this in now, let's do some of these little dashes. See, I'm just following a pattern of every, second one or something, and it doesn't have to be 1:1. It just has to be something that symbolizes what's going on. Yeah. I guess to make it quicker, I could just copy and flip, but I've already started, and this is therapeutic. All right. Cool. So we got that. So if you wanted to make a map up with this, you'd say, right, that's this tile. Just make sure I'm on the tile here. Yeah. Right, so you're going to build this up like so. And then that would be this tile here. And you would obviously need a flat grey tile, so you see we've got one there already, but if this was its own set, it would need its own one. Excuse me. Okay, so the best way to test this is just to build up your tiles like this. You can see by grabbing two like that, I can obviously cover a bit more area. Okay, let's try to like some sort of return on this. So pixels at the top right. So it should be this. I can cheat a little bit and just flick these because they would be the same anyway. But that's wrong. It should be more like that. And then you'd finish that off with this tile. Okay, so you can see that's going to be the workings to an isometric game. There's other ways you could do this. You could just grab this whole tile and tile this sort of way. And if you do Control 1, you can see the actual pixel size of that. So Control 0 will zoom in until it matches the screen, and Control 1 is the actual pixel size. Now I like to make this 200% when I'm working, or a multiple of 100, just so that I get a nice crisp pixels. Usually multiples of like 2 is good. 100, 200, 400, 800. Gives you nice pixel resolution. But you can work on whatever's comfortable, to be honest. So that's how you would make up your isometric tiles as opposed to your top-down tiles. Now you could very well use the full area here with top-down tiles. There's nothing wrong with that. And that way, if your character's standing here, it's better because he's not off a tile or on a tile. He's exactly kind of round it, but it gets tricky when it comes to making T-junctions and stuff. So I'm just going to show you what I mean. So if I take this and bring it to the, let's see, I'll bring it to this corner, right, and then this one. In fact, these are all corner pieces now when you think about it. But you also need outer corners, right? So if I try and make up a map with this now, let me just make some space here. So let's see, let's start making a map up. Let's do a corner there. So I'll get a kind of return corner. And it might be okay. I'm thinking it might be fine. Let's just see what happens. I'm just going to cheat and just rotate this manually because it's the same anyway. And obviously we need our actual edge pieces, so I'm going to move these apart. Sometimes when you've got the grid snapping on, it doesn't draw in the right side of the line. Okay, so that's going to be edges. I'm just going to put a little marker here and here, just so I know. Just 1 pixel on the inside. It's quite nice. Okay, and then I guess I could put little notches at the corners here just to show that's a repeating tile. Okay, so I'm going to take this one. So I usually turn the snapping on when I'm selecting. I'm just going to rotate without caring about grabbing because they're the same. Okay, well it looks to me this is going to work, so let's check. There's nothing odd about using this system. So you've got a little corner tile in theory there, and that works just fine. And what about like if we had, you know, a path coming off here? How do we do that? So you would need then something with both edges covered, and then you would need that like 4 different directions. So what I mean is this. Just take this bit. And take that, rotate it. So now I've got these 2 pathway pieces. So that would be like there. And then I'd use one of these ones here. And there you go, you've got a little corridor there. So that system works as long as you know the pieces you need for it, and that takes what, 1, 2, 3, 9, 10, 11 pieces, whereas a system like this takes a little bit more. Let's see, because you've got 1, 2, 3, you've got 9, and then you've got each return, which I've not done yet, but basically that would be, okay, so you've got a corner coming in here, and then it would want to go up this way. So let's just do something like that. And I guess the beauty of it is that you can make these nice little curves and different variations in the shape and stuff. Maybe you could do that here as well, but it's a bit less intuitive. Maybe, I don't know, entirely up to you. I'm trying to think what I prefer, because I got into the habit of doing it this halfway sort of system. And I'm just going to put some little notches here just to show it's a little corner. And Alright, so that's your corner pieces. I guess I got rid of that one. So you could use this system, which uses up 9 including the blank, 10, 11, 12, 13 tiles, and this system uses 9, 10, 11 tiles. So this is less expensive, and when you're on the actual tile, you're filling the whole tile, whereas this one, when you're standing on the tile, you're on the edge of it. So this is not so good for detection, but it's nicer for maybe return shapes and stuff. So you can see when I go this way, what I would really need to finish this off is you know, if it was like rounded grass, if you imagine, let's see, let me do a different color, if it will let me. Right. So if I had something like, okay, it goes here and then it's like rounded grass here, then suddenly it just goes straight because there's no tile here, but I'd need something in here to act as a little corner piece here, here, and obviously the other corner. So that's adding 4 to this amount of tiles, right? So instead of 9, 10, 11, it's going to be plus 4. So that'll be 15 tiles for that. And then this system is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's 9 plus what? It's using 13 tiles. So suddenly this becomes more efficient, and you can, you don't have to go round with all these little corner bits in the end, you know. And there's other things like having a circle in the middle, or you know, like shapes like this or something. Yeah, that things like that seem a lot easier here, because you could have just this part, then it goes around like that, and then something like this. And if you wanted to put in like a circle piece, you could build it up out of like 4 of these. Okay, it'd be a bit bigger, but you can still make up individual ones where you might have like a hole in there. And the same with this one, but this is like 2 tiles more efficient. But the drawback is that you would be, you know, on the edge of a tile. The other good thing about this though is that you put your walls there, but the bad thing to that is that your walls be made of 2 sides, and that is the real reason why this system's better, because to build your walls up here, they're all on an existing tile already. So let's go ahead and make a wall system just to show you that. Undo all this stuff. Right, so you've got this here, right? Nice system, and you want to make up a wall. And so the sole reason for going halfway through the tiles is because in theory you'll never actually stand on these tiles. You might, yeah, you probably have your character going to each corner of a tile, and that could get tricky, and you know, when you're doing the coding side of it. But anyway, you're going to build your walls round like this, right? So I'm just going to make a real quick wall. Let's say I've gone 4 in that way, so I'm going to go 4 out this way. I'm going 1, 2, 3 out this way, so I'll go 4 out this way. 1, 2, 3, 4. Going 1 too much here. Right. Okay, and I'm just going to fill that. And just delete bits I don't want. This bit can go further down. And I guess the other good thing is that I can add shadow to this as well, all in the same tile. So let's just do a lighter blue. Right, and I can just, I'll do something like that just to signify the beginning and the end of each piece. Oops, one here and here. Right, so I can now grab that and make it into all 4 corners. It's more like that, I think. And then take this corner piece. Right, so imagine that's your walls. I'm just going to look at this a wee second. So I guess the other problem with this is that this is 4 that way and 3 that way, and this is 3 that way, and you know, it's not like these tie up very well, so that might be an idea to fix that so that these can be used either way, and then you don't need the extra ones, unless, you know, like if you've got shadows in there. So, oh, yeah, so I'm basically making everything thicker so that they're the same on either side. Because if they're unique, then you have to use them in a unique fashion, but if they're the same, then it's no big deal. And if you're using different layers, you can overlay dirt and grime and stuff on a layer above, and that would then make them unique. So you've got this really kind of basic base layer. Right, and then even then I can make this bit look a bit more rounded. Okay, so imagine that as your tiles. That works with this system really nicely because it lands on the edge. Now if you've got a character moving around, you basically say that, you know, if that's your little Space Marine guy, right, if that's your little Space Marine guy, he can only move, like he can't move there, right? Because there's a wall there. And you can see on these, he sits kind of awkwardly. So he would never really go on these tiles. It would only ever really go on like one of these full tiles. But in this scenario, he could go on this tile, this tile, this tile. But you can say logically that he's on a tile, but he actually sits at a different offset from it, so it looks like he's above it. You know, it makes him look more grounded, and this would be a wall, and it wouldn't be like so top down. It might be slightly tilted. That way he could, in theory, be on, let's say he's on this tile, but you offset him a bit. Yeah. And maybe he could go on this tile, but yeah, you know, he sits there, but then he would, to go on this tile, you'd think you'd have to go on that. It's going to be over the wall. So this one, he would only be on the actual full tile, and the rest are just, you know, corner bits. But this one, he can go on any full tile, and it's a lot easier. So depending on what kind of game you're making, and I say the problem with this is when it comes to the walls, is that you would need to make all the walls at the edges. Then you've got the right hand and left hand side of the wall, or you just use one side of the wall, but then you can have 2 different types of wall trying to marry up, and sometimes that can be more fiddly because you've got corner pieces, you've got the little corner piece, you've got the straight pieces. Either way is fine, but it's one of those decisions that you make early on. Now if I was to take this wall and make it have some height to it, so I'll take that like there, and let's just fill that with a different blue. Let's go for a kind of purpley tone actually, just to show in a different light. I'm just going to grab from purple there, drag that to here, so I get the right distance. Something like that gives me more of a 3D wall, and even then I could add in like a shadow. So usually I go for black and then set it to 50%. You could, draw in a little shadow like this. And you would also have that cast down here and on the side a little bit. It's tricky without an actual background color, so make sure you've got something that helps you see. Right, so that would be your tile set for your walls, and you don't have to worry about very much. You can just take what you need. Maybe I want to add shadow to, I want to add shadow to the ground here as well. So now as you build up your map, you're able to tile this part quite easily. Just ignore what's underneath for a second there. Just get rid of that. I could even then take this one, and in theory it should be exactly the same. Yep, so that means I don't need this tile because it's the same, and same for this one, I don't need this tile. So that already saves a little bit. Okay, but you can start to see that I'm going to need junctions and stuff. So like this one, I might want to have it, so I'll make a copy of that. I'm going to want it so that it gives me two directions. And then the shadow isn't, like I could pick this grey and that would be wrong when I take the background away. See, that's solid. I want to be using black with opacity at 50%. So if you press 5, it switches to 50%. So these are all multiples of 10, like 1's 10%, 2's 20%. If you do them quickly, it reads in the second value, like 45. But if I wait a while, so I'd press 4, then I press 5, then I press 4, it just kind of resets back to the 10. Anyway, I'm going to press 5 for 50% and finish the shadow off. You see if I overlap the shadow, it gets darker. Okay, let's get extra opaqueness. So that would be like a T-junction here. And that's not going to work for going down the way. So I would need to take this tile again. Right, like so. Oh, it looks like I've messed something up. This is just missing a little slither here. I must have cut it off. Right, and then to go down the way, I can take one of these, or at least a piece, and start to plan it. So that should be like that there. You see the shadow's too strong, so I'm just going to draw that back in. There's going to be a bit of shadow here. Go a little bit extra. And then I'm going to switch back to solid colors. So if I press 0, it goes to 100%. So 5 is 50%, 0, and this is the top row number key, not the number keypad on the right of your keyboard, but the top row of numbers. And if you, I think if you click smoothing, oh no, it's if you've got one of these where it's flow. If you click flow, it suddenly takes over flow. If you click this, if you click off flow, it reads opacity. So these are slightly different. Flow is more of a build-up, opacity is more of a layer, but hard to explain. But that's brushes, so we're just going to work on the actual pencil. Right, so 0 gives me 100%. Right, so that would be the downward junction. Then we need a right junction and a left junction. So you can see this is starting to build up into a full set of walls. And I can't simply take this and rotate it like that, because my walls don't look like that with the edge shown in the right hand side. So just delete that. So I usually just build it up with existing pieces. So I'll take this one. And this one. I can cut that to the layer above, and then I can just take away what I don't need from it. Is a real quick way of doing that. And then merge it back down again. Oh, no, merge down. Okay, and then just draw in the bit that fixes it. That's the super easiest way to do that. Again, this piece won't work by just flipping it because the shadow is in the wrong side. But I could just rework the shadow real quick, because all it is 2 lines of 50% black. So if I press B again, go back to black, press 5 for 50%, and then just draw one line and draw another. Be sure you don't draw like this. You know, if I draw it down and then let go of the mouse and then keep drawing, I get this overlapped opacity, because you can see these are actually transparent and they layer up. So just, if you hold shift, it will draw a straight line, like you can't deviate from that line, but make sure you let go. And I've got snapping to grid on, so I have shortcut control keys for things like that. So that's basically the full set. We've got left junction, right junction, top and down. We've got all our corners. We've got straight pieces. So in theory, we should be able to make up any sort of map. Now, what I don't have really is a doorway. So for the top doorway, it would be a copy of this. Right, and then all I do is erase all this stuff. I'm just going to keep that edge there, even this one, but we're going to see a little bit of the wall like that, right? I'll just take that across to there and start to draw in what's missing. Can't just pick that, I have to choose black. I have to press 5, and then I can draw in the shadow. Right, so that would be like a doorway, and then the top doorway would be this part. Just make sure it's in the right place, and then I can just erase or get rid of those, and then finish drawing my shadow. Now, the shadow's not going to go all the way up here, because that would suggest there's something bigger behind creating a shadow, it would only go to where the ground is, which is, this is the thickness, right? So you imagine it's more like this, right? And all I'm want to do is draw the shadow. So I've got the shadow here, and I just want the shadow down here, right? Not way up here like this, because that doesn't make sense. It's only where the ground is, so it's just going to be, you know, like that or something. And that's the only thing that will sell that as being, you know, that height. It's the same as here. I've not done the shadow all the way around here. I've done it to roughly where the ground is, you know. So I've done it based on this blue line. I'm just going to finish these off. Cool, so that should be our full set. Now I'm just going to tidy this up so it's a bit more compacted. Again, I have to leave that top left tile blank. Now what else could I have? I've got doorways, top, bottom, and left and right is all the same. So yeah, I can just go ahead and start making a map up. Now obviously it's easier to use something that lets you make tile sets like Gamemaker, but for quickness I'll just demo using. So this doesn't look like it's meeting this because I've made a mistake here. These tiles are wrong. Now maybe it makes sense to go into Gamemaker because this is getting trickier to make sense of. So I'm just going to hide this little guy here, wherever he is. Oh, he's actually there, right. I'm going to cut him out because I might use him later. And we don't need the background. And I'm just going to save this because I've not even saved it yet. And let's go desktop, pixel fun, and talking about tile sets. So I'm going to take this here. I'm just going to crop it and call this template. I'll call it mid style because everything's in the middle. I'm just going to undo that because I've got a whole lot of nice sort of things that I could use to work with here. Right, but these are just the walls, and you can see that if we've got walls, we don't have to worry about the ground too much, you know, so because they're going to cover all these edge details. So let's go into Gamemaker and see what I can do with this. So there's a free version of Gamemaker Studio 2 as far as I know, and that will let you get started. Or you can, you know, get an old version somewhere. Okay, so I'm just going to do testing pixel sprites. Yep. Testing pixel tiles. So this is one that I made before, and this was using the edge, you know, the mid style system, but in a really low density pixel style. This is the set that I made. You can see I've got left and right walls plus variations of the left and right. Well, I say walls, but these are actually grass edges. And you can see I've built everything up with layers. Got all these different layers for walls and things. You know, you get your underlying tone here. You got your water tiles, which, you know, all these things, they don't have to look great because they're going to get overlapped with things with more detail, like the grass here makes these edges look nicer. And you've got some grassy detailing. If I zoom into that, you can see it's just little transparent ones, so that's these. So there's just a little detail here, and they've just been plopped around. You've got wall shadows for any walls, so that has to be, you know, underneath the actual walls. And we've got walls extra bits, so it's adding all these pillars. and then extra 2. So this is like almost like the the wall dirt and things, but it's like an extra layer of it because there's extra bits and then there's extra 2. And then our trees is going to be brought in because most of our trees are going to overlap these walls. Now if like the trees were further down, they'll cut through. So you have to place them correctly as well. And then trees extra, this is trees that overlap other trees because each layer up here is overlapping the layer below. So if I want this tree to overlap, I have to put it in this trees extra layer. Okay, like that one. Otherwise it might look odd. Okay, so that's that map. So you go to your resources, and then you're going to bring in your sprite. So you create a sprite, and I'm just going to call it tiles. Oops. And I'm going to import the image. I think that's all you do there. Now you get into tile sets, and in your new tile set you select your sprite and you tell it the size of tiles. Now you can see at that size it's loads of little components, and that would take a long time to build up a map really. So I'm going to change the tile size properties here. I'm going to change that to 32 by 32. Okay, that's now the way I want it. Okay, so if I go and make a new room, I'm just going to call this room park, and this will be room sci-fi. Maybe it's like a sci-fi pack. Now you want to define your background color first of all. So I'm going to make a kind of nice metallic blue tone. Maybe around a bit there. Okay. And then I can go to my tile set. So create a new tile layer. This will be the base tiles. There should be, so tile set, this one. And if I go into room editor, I can see my tiles here. So yeah, as I was saying, you have to leave this top left one free because it makes it into like a null tile. Don't know why it does that, but it just seems to be the way that it does it. Right, so I can start to build up a map here real easy. Do a little junction here, put in a doorway here. And here, let's do one up the way. Maybe this is a little turn here with that. We've got a doorway in the left, maybe one here, put one down this part. I'm going to put a junction here and one here. Can make this into its own little room, put a doorway there. It could be a little kind of supply room. You can think of these things as you're making it. I could even make this so narrow. Now you can see the problem here. If I make it too narrow, when your character's in the game and he can only sort of sit on these tiles, how's he going to get round here? Everywhere else seems to be fine, but if you make that too narrow, that's not going to work for the the logic of movement or anything like that. And when he is moving, you might have to make your own sort of collision tile system, so you might have a layer of instances above this that are all colliders, or you could read into that tile layer and see what tile is there. And if there's no tile there, then it's okay to walk, but it could even be that if the tile is the doorway tile, then you can walk through it, you know. Or you make the doorways into instances or something. There are different ways to deal with it. This one I'm going to make a junction. Yeah, let's just close it off. So there you go, there's a little room, and you could even have like a little elevator here, and then it takes you to like another room and so on. And you might be like, oh, how did I get to this room here? And it could just be a little elevator takes you there. Then it's got a doorway. Because once you like pop your character over here, the camera can automatically follow it. If you use some of the properties in the room, you can make it follow an object. Sort of viewports, I think. So you'd make a viewport visible. You can make it follow a character around with a certain border. I usually set this quite high so it follows the character well enough. So if you look at the demo that I'd created, in fact, I can try it in this room if I drag in the object that I made. Oh yeah, it needs, I'll just show you the room part, right? It needs a view, one of these view thingies. You see, I've just assigned the control keys to this, but I can move around. If I move all the way at the top left, you see how the view stops moving, because that's the extreme top left of the map. So that's how it follows the character around. This actually should all be water, but I must have disabled the water. Right, so what's it got? It's got a viewport, enable viewports, visible, and then this border's 320. So if I go into the sci-fi room and do enable viewports, visible, you can see it there actually, but it's taken up the full size. So I can do something like 320 by 200, and automatically it's going to follow the player. This one, and then I'll just drag this, but it's got to be on instances, right? So I'll put like here. Now I don't want them snapping to the tile, or maybe I do. I want it to be have more control with it, so I just want to make it here, right? So that's a starting point. And if I have a look at the object, all I'm drawing is a little circle. I'm going to make the radius a bit smaller. Okay, so that's fine for that room. Now if I drag this room to the top, it becomes the first room we test. There he is there. Now, the screen's not exactly following him very well because the horizontal border is only 32. If I change that to that, and I'm going to make this double, and this double the last one. I just want the numbers to be compatible, so 1280 by 800. Right, I don't think that's broke anything. Cool. So now, there we go, that's a bit better. Now obviously I can go straight through these walls, so it'd be up to me to make a kind of collision system for that, but this tutorial isn't about that. It's all about just constructing these tile sets. And another cool thing that you might want to see is if I go into this room, this one, and go to the room editing, choose my tile layer, I can make up my own little brushes. So I can basically say, right, give me this one, what is it libraries? Oh. Yeah, you can kind of grab a bunch of them, but there used to be, oh yeah, editing mode here, right? So you could make a little setup like that, right? With a little doorway, and then you turn editing mode off, and then you can grab this, and this becomes a little brush, which is really nice. You can make these little, little booths. Now you obviously can't rotate it and make up another set, so edit mode on, and edit mode on. Just press escape, takes you out of that. Right, so choose your brushes. This time the doorway is going to be in the top. Edit mode off, drag, or you just click really, and then you can make these little. So these could be, little ammo rooms or something, or prisoner cells. So imagine there was a little teleporter here, and then bing, puts me here, and then it can sort of free prisoners and things. Obviously the movement and the sprite and the atmosphere and all the other things will make this more interesting. You can make the view bigger as well. Let's see, so the camera viewport samples, I forget which one it is, I think it's this one. Okay, so that gives me a bigger view. Yeah, that just crunches everything down, so I'm going to make that back to the way it was. 320 by 200. And then this one can be 1280 by 800. I think that will make the screen bigger. Yeah, there we go. So we've got this nice big old retro thing happening. It's got a bit slow down there, I don't know what that is. So those settings are pretty ideal if you're making a retro game. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Enable viewports, visible, the main size 1280-800, your camera properties 320 by 200, and then your viewport properties 1280 by 800, and then they're following the character with a horizontal border 320 and 320, and the speed -1. Now you can change that speed to try and match the player speed. So if I do -2, it might go too fast. That seems okay. So it depends on the speed of the player, but you can play around with that to see what's better. So I change that to like 20. I think that's just like a maximum, maybe. Yeah. So it could play catch up with the player if you wanted. It's worth experimenting with that to see what kind of camera effect you get. So that's how you basically build up your little tile sets, make your tile sets in Photoshop. You have to decide what kind of system you want to make. You can make your own brushes, whether you want the character to be, inside these with the walls there. So the only thing is, like, when you've got your character here, right, like he's snapped on this grid, and then suddenly you've got this wall encroaching over him. Like the wall maybe is quite thick or something. Let's do it like that. You have to decide well in advance, and then you've got the shadow also overlapping in his head, where you'd have to then make sure that he's overlapping that wall. You know what I mean? So that's fine anyway, because most of the tiles are in the underlayer. But what if the walls, like here where you want the wall to sort of go in front of him, then you need an overlayer as well. So yeah, a couple of things to consider. I mean, many old school games had an underlayer and an overlayer for like that effect. But that's pretty much going to wrap up this tutorial, and I hope you enjoyed watching this. Feel free to comment below and like and subscribe for any future videos. I cover a whole broad range of stuff, and I hope to cover something else nice and pixel arty in the next video as well. I quite enjoy this stuff, and it's a good break from working on all these shaders and hair tools and God knows what else. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.